In 1966, the Black Panther movement was founded. Prominent among the founders were Bobby Seale, who is its president, and Huey Newton, after Eldridge Cleaver, probably its best-known champion. In recent months, of course, the Newton wing expelled Eldridge Cleaver, who was living in Algeria, so that the Seale-Newton wing is nowadays supreme. Meanwhile, the Black Panthers have turned their backs officially on violence as a means of accomplishing whatever it is they propose to accomplish, concerning which we will in due course be enlightened. Huey Newton, you will remember, was tried and convicted of killing a policeman, specifically of involuntary manslaughter. The slogan, "Free Huey Newton," was to the late 60s what the slogan, "Who Promoted Perez," was to the early 50s. The higher court reversed the verdict on a technicality, and Mr. Newton was tried twice more, the trial resulting in each case in a split jury. Finally, the presiding judge gave up, and Huey Newton is free. His mother is from Louisiana, his father from Arkansas, and he is the youngest of 7 children. He was schooled in Oakland, where he now lives. His first book was called "To Die for the People," and imminently he will publish his autobiography, which is called "Revolutionary Suicide," a concept I shall now ask Mr. Newton please to explain.
I'll explain it, but if I may impose upon you, I have a friend who's almost dying for me to ask this question, if you will. The question is, during the Revolution of 1776, when the United States of America broke away from England, my friend would like to know, what side would you have been on during that time?
I think probably I would have been on the side of George Washington. I'm not absolutely sure, because it remains to be established historically whether what we sought to prove at that point might not have been proved by more peaceful means. On the whole, I'm against revolutions. Though I think as revolutions go, that was a pretty humane one.
Yeah, you're not such a bad guy after all. My friend will be surprised to hear that. I hope he's listening.
His assumption was what?
Well, he was puzzled, but I think that he was inclined to believe that you've been on the side of the colonizers of England. But I'm pleased with the answer, and I agree with you. The only revolution that is worth fighting is a humane revolution, and
also one that succeeds.
Pardon me?
Also one that succeeds.
Yes, right.
Because,
eventually.
I feel that if King George had captured George Washington, he would have had the right to hang him.
According to the law.
Yeah.
But revolutions always, in some ways, contradict some laws. That's why it's called revolution.
Well, revolutionary justice is its own justice, isn't it?
Yes, and of course it always professes to go under some human right or humane consideration. And I think that we can judge revolutions on the basis of how much, in fact, or objectively, people are given a fair, dealt with in a fairer way, and are given more freedom. I think that one of my principles is that contradiction is the ruling principle of the universe, and everything in phenomena, whether it's the physical world or the biological world or the social world, has its internal contradiction that gives motion to things, that internal strain. And much of the time that we Homo sapiens don't realize that no matter what sort of conditions we establish, no matter what government we establish at this point, there also will be that internal contradiction that will have to be resolved, and resolved in a rational, just way. And of course, that leads us somewhat, it's very vague on how to deal with it. And many times we claim actions are revolutionary when really they're not. So I appreciate your answer, and I would agree with that part of it.
Which part?
The part that the only revolution is worthwhile, or that is a real revolution that succeeds, would be a humane revolution. And
otherwise
that,
it's called an insurrection or a mutiny.
Yeah, a rebellion or riot. Yes.
Yeah, as I understand it, the generally accepted test of the integrity of a revolution is whether it is established, the revolution having taken place, that the people truly supported it.
A revolution cannot really succeed without the people's support.
Oh, sure it can. Oh, sure. It's easy.
Well, changes in authority can be successful, but I think that we would have to have a functional definition. We would have to stipulate what we mean by revolution.
Well, there are revolutions, roughly speaking, every 2 or 3 months in Latin America without the people getting involved.
Well, I would probably call it by, I think just the words, I would call it a coup d'etat.
That's revolution.
Well, I say that by way of definition, I would reject your definition, but I'll appreciate if you want to call a coup d'etat a revolution, then I could function.
All right, and if you want to call a popular revolution, please call it a popular revolution.
Well, then I would say that a revolution would have to be popular, or else
Why?
I wouldn't label it as a revolution. I would, so really we're just dealing in semantics of what a revolution what a revolution is made up of, in fact. And I say that we won't have to belabor that any rebellion that establishes a new authority, if you would like to call that revolution, then I could entertain it because, it's just a word anyway. But changes in governments and changes in the relationship people and authority and institutions, I say they take many forms, and I like to distinguish.
Sure. What would you call the thing that ousted King Farouk?
I wouldn't call it a revolution.
Even though an entirely new order was brought in?
Yes, but with coup d'etats, it's common that an entirely new order will be brought in.
No, not necessarily.
Pardon me? I say it's possible.
No, sometimes a coup d'etat takes away one kernel and puts in another
but
kernel.
Sometimes, but other times that a coup d'etat could establish an entirely different relationship between the institutions and the people in a particular place.
Which case is revolutionary?
Pardon me?
In which case it's revolutionary?
I say that I could function with that definition if you insist that's the only one, but I have a special, to me, revolution carries a special connotation, and of course it's only my subjective kind of feelings about it, and but I have to distinguish between changes of power and just for my own way of thinking, establish calling one a flower and the other a skunk. And but
well,
I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't argue the absolute kind of definition to the conditions that I'm talking about.
Well, I grant that you have considerable authority in your movement. I'm not sure that you have an authority to impose your own terminology.
Well, I argue that your definition is not necessarily a lexical definition. I already granted you, if you want to stipulate that that as a definition of revolution, I'll entertain it. But
well, maybe this is the occasion to say about the historian Macaulay that he shouldn't have referred to the glorious revolution of 1688 because it didn't fit your standard. But meanwhile, he wrote 13 volumes on the subject
I say that he
and
can
called it
refer.
revolution.